Let me start with a truth that most people don't want to hear. Time is not your problem. Time is neutral. Time works perfectly. The problem is how you use it. Every person on this planet gets the same 24 hours, but not everyone gets the same results. Why? Because laziness turns time, your most valuable asset, into waste. And what you waste today, you will pay for tomorrow. Here's the hook. You don't run out of time. You run out of discipline. Laziness is expensive. It costs you opportunities, growth, income, confidence, and purpose. While lazy people are waiting to feel motivated, disciplined people are building skills, stacking habits, and compounding results. Laziness whispers, you can do it later. Success responds, later is too late. Think about this. Time is like money, but more valuable. Because you can earn more money, but you can never earn more time. Every lazy hour is a withdrawal you can't put back. When you procrastinate, you are not postponing work. You are postponing your future. And the future doesn't wait. It charges interest. Another hard truth, laziness is often disguised as comfort. Comfort feels good today but costs you tomorrow. Growth feels uncomfortable today but rewards you forever. Winners choose temporary discomfort over permanent regret. They understand that discipline is the bridge between where you are and where you say you want to be. Let me say this clearly. Your potential is not unlocked by talent. It's unlocked by action. God doesn't bless intentions, he blesses execution. Dreams without work are hallucinations. If you want a different life, you must run from laziness like it's an enemy, because it is. Laziness doesn't just steal your time, it steals your identity. Here's another hook. Lazy people watch motivated speeches. Disciplined people become the speech. They don't wait for perfect conditions. They move when it's hard, when it's boring, when it's inconvenient, because they know something most people don't. Momentum is created, not found. Time is not working against you, and it never has. Time does not favor some people and punish others. Time does not care about your background, your age, your resources, or your excuses. Time simply moves. Every second arrives with the same potential, but the value of that second is determined by one thing and one thing only: discipline. Without discipline, time passes and leaves nothing behind. With discipline, time compounds and multiplies. This is why two people can stand in the same year, under the same clock, and end up in completely different lives. Here's a hook most people avoid. You don't need more time. You need more control over yourself. The problem is not the calendar, it's the character. Discipline is the force that converts invisible time into visible results. When discipline is missing, time leaks. Hours disappear into distractions, comfort, and delay. At the end of the day, you feel tired but accomplish nothing. That's not because the day was short, it's because discipline was absent. Most people think time creates success. It doesn't. Time only reveals habits. If your habits are weak, time exposes weakness. If your habits are strong, time magnifies strength. Discipline gives time direction. Without direction, time becomes noise. With direction, time becomes leverage. Every disciplined action is a seed planted into time, and time will always return what you plant, multiplied. Here's another hook. Undisciplined time is the most expensive waste on earth. People protect their money better than their hours, even though hours are worth more. Money can be replaced. Time cannot. When discipline is missing, time is spent instead of invested. Spent time gives you nothing back. Invested time pays dividends in skill, confidence, income, and clarity. Discipline is the difference between spending your life and building it. Discipline is not about working harder. It's about deciding faster, deciding when to wake up, deciding what to focus on. Deciding what to ignore. Most people don't fail because they choose wrong things. They fail because they choose too late. Discipline removes hesitation. It eliminates negotiation with comfort. It turns "I'll do it later" into "I'll do it now." And now is where power lives. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Motivation comes and goes, but discipline stays. Motivation is emotional. Discipline is structural. You don't build a future on feelings, you build it on systems. Discipline creates systems that run even when you don't feel like it. That's how time becomes productive instead of painful. That's how consistency replaces chaos. Time rewards repetition, not intention. 1 disciplined hour every day will outperform 10 emotional hours once a week. Discipline teaches you how to show up even when results are invisible, and invisible work is where most people quit. But disciplined people understand something others don't. Time always pays back those who stay consistent long enough. Here's a final hook inside the truth. The person you become is the receipt of how you used your time. Discipline doesn't just manage your schedule, it shapes your identity. When you are disciplined, you don't just do better, you think better. You move with purpose. You stop reacting and start creating. Time stops slipping through your fingers and starts working for you. When discipline enters your life, time stops being something you chase and becomes something you command. Each day gains structure. Each hour gains meaning. And slowly, without noise or drama, time begins to build a life that looks intentional, powerful, and uncommon. Laziness never shows up with a warning label. It doesn't announce itself as danger. It presents itself as rest, as delay, as just this once. That's why it's so costly. Laziness is not a moment. It's a pattern, and patterns shape futures. Every time you choose comfort over commitment, you're quietly agreeing to pay a price later. The bill doesn't arrive immediately, but it always arrives with interest. Here's a hook most people don't realize. Laziness is not free. It's financed. The future is the one that pays. What you avoid today doesn't disappear, it accumulates. Skills you didn't build, conversations you didn't have, risks you didn't take all stack up into a debt that shows up as limitation tomorrow. Laziness delays effort, but it accelerates regret. People often think laziness is harmless because nothing bad happens right away. That's the deception. Laziness is a slow leak, not an explosion. It drains progress silently. One skipped workout doesn't destroy your health. One postponed task doesn't ruin your career. But repeated laziness compounds into a version of life that feels stuck, heavy, and underwhelming. You wake up one day wondering why you're behind, not realizing the answer was hidden in yesterday's excuses. Another hook, laziness charges compound interest. Just like money, behavior multiplies over time. When you are lazy with your habits, you don't just lose the moment, you lose momentum. Momentum is fragile. Once broken, it takes twice the effort to rebuild. That's why disciplined people guard their routines like assets. They understand that protecting consistency is cheaper than repairing damage. Laziness also steals opportunities before you even see them. Opportunities rarely come fully formed. They come disguised as preparation. When you're lazy, you miss the preparation, and then you complain about the lack of opportunity. The market doesn't reward potential, it rewards readiness. And readiness is built through disciplined action when no one is watching. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Laziness makes life harder, not easier. It promises relief but delivers resistance. Tasks don't disappear when ignored, they grow heavier. Problems don't solve themselves, they multiply. What could have been handled with small effort becomes overwhelming with delay. Laziness is a short-term escape that creates low, NG-term pressure. Another hook that cuts deep. Laziness taxes your confidence. Every time you break a promise to yourself, you weaken trust in yourself. And self-trust is the foundation of leadership, success, and self-respect. People don't fail because they lack ability. They fail because they stop believing in their own consistency. Laziness erodes that belief slowly until self-doubt feels normal. Financially, laziness is brutal. Income follows value, and value follows effort. When effort is inconsistent, income becomes unstable. People wonder why their financial growth is slow, not realizing that laziness limits skill acquisition. Skills are built through repetition, practice, and discipline, none of which laziness tolerates. You can't skip the process and still expect the payout. Here's a powerful hook. Laziness is a vote against your future self. Every lazy choice tells your future self you handle it. And eventually your future self becomes overwhelmed, frustrated, and resentful. Disciplined people do the opposite. They serve their future self by making hard decisions early. They pay the price up front so the future can collect the reward. Laziness doesn't just cost you success, it costs you options. The more you delay growth, the fewer choices you have later. Discipline expands options. Laziness shrinks them. One creates freedom, the other creates constraint. And the tragedy is that most people don't realize what they've lost until the cost becomes permanent. Comfort feels innocent. It doesn't look like a threat. It feels like safety, familiarity, and relief. That's why it's so dangerous. Comfort convinces you that staying where you are is reasonable, even when you know you are meant for more. Growth never announces itself politely. It demands change, pressure, and effort. The moment you choose comfort over challenge, progress slows and potential starts to shrink. Here's a hook that most people resist. If your life feels easy, it might be costing you everything. Comfort has a way of rewarding you immediately while quietly robbing you long term. It offers pleasure now in exchange for progress later. And many people accept that trade without realizing how expensive it is. They mistake comfort for peace, not knowing that real peace comes from progress. Growth requires friction. Just like muscles only grow under resistance, character only develops under challenge. Comfort removes resistance, and without resistance, nothing strengthens. Skills stay shallow. Confidence stays fragile. Vision stays theoretical. You don't grow by staying relaxed. You grow by staying committed. Comfort tells you to rest before you're tired. Growth tells you to stretch before you're ready. Another hook that cuts deep. Comfort keeps you busy but unproductive. You may be moving all day, yet going nowhere. Comfort fills your schedule with activities that feel safe but don't create value. Growth demands focus on the uncomfortable tasks that actually move the needle. The conversation you avoid, the skill you delay learning, the discipline you resist. Those are the gateways to your next level. Comfort also distorts your sense of urgency. When life feels manageable, you convince yourself there's plenty of time. But growth operates on timing. Miss the season of preparation, and you'll struggle in the season of opportunity. Comfort lulls you into postponement, and postponement quietly closes doors. Opportunities don't disappear loudly, they fade silently when you're not ready. Here's another hook. Comfort trains you to negotiate with yourself. Just today, just this once, I'll start tomorrow. Each negotiation weakens your authority over your own life. Growth requires decisiveness. It requires you to do what needs to be done without debate. The strongest people are not the most motivated, they are the most decisive. They don't ask how they feel, they act on who they want to become. Comfort also limits perspective. When you stay in familiar environments, you think familiar thoughts. Growth often requires exposure to new standards, new expectations, and new discomforts. You don't expand by staying around what you already know. You expand by stepping into spaces that stretch your identity. Discomfort is not a sign you're failing, it's a sign you're evolving. Another powerful hook. Comfort makes average feel acceptable. When you get used to ease, you lower your standards without realizing it. You stop demanding excellence from yourself. Growth requires high standards and the willingness to meet them daily. It's not glamorous, it's repetitive, and it's uncomfortable. But it's the only path that leads upward. Comfort also delays mastery. Mastery requires repetition beyond enthusiasm. It requires practice after boredom sets in. Comfort avoids boredom. Growth embraces it. That's why most people start strong but finish weak. They confuse excitement with commitment. Growth is built when excitement fades and discipline takes over. Discomfort sharpens focus. When you choose growth, distractions lose their power. You become intentional. You protect your time. You align your actions with your goals. Comfort does the opposite. It scatters attention and blurs priorities. You stay entertained but undeveloped. Growth demands sacrifice, but it always pays back. Comfort demands nothing up front and collects everything later. One expands your capacity, the other shrinks it. And every day, whether consciously or not, you choose between the two. Most people wait for motivation as if it is a requirement for movement. They sit still, telling themselves they will act when they feel inspired, energized, or confident. That mindset quietly destroys progress. Action was never designed to follow motivation. Motivation is unreliable, emotional, and inconsistent. Action is the only constant that produces results. If you make motivation a condition, you make success optional. Here's a hook that shifts perspective. Motivation is a luxury. Action is a necessity. High performers don't ask how they feel before they move. They move, and their feelings catch up later. The world does not reward enthusiasm, it rewards execution. Ideas without action are invisible. Talent without action is irrelevant. Dreams without action are expensive fantasies. Waiting for motivation hands control of your life to your emotions. Emotions change daily, sometimes hourly. If your progress depends on how you feel, your results will always be unstable. Action, on the other hand, creates structure. Structure creates consistency. Consistency creates momentum. Momentum creates motivation. The sequence is backward for most people, and that's why they stay stuck. Another hook worth hearing: motivation follows motion, not the other way around. When you take the first step, energy appears. When you complete the first task, confidence rises. When you keep moving, clarity shows up. Action is a signal to your mind that progress is happening, and the mind responds by generating motivation. Stillness produces doubt. Movement produces belief. Action also eliminates overthinking. Most hesitation is not caused by lack of ability, but by excess analysis. The mind looks for certainty before movement, but certainty only comes after experience. Action short-circuits fear. You don't become brave by thinking about courage. You become brave by acting despite discomfort. Each action weakens fear and strengthens self-trust. Here's another hook. Action is the language of commitment. Anyone can say they want more. Few are willing to act when it's inconvenient. Action proves seriousness. It separates those who admire success from those who build it. Talking creates intention. Acting creates identity. You become what you repeatedly do, not what you repeatedly plan. Action creates data. Data creates improvement. When you act, you get feedback. Feedback allows adjustment. Waiting for motivation keeps you stuck in theory. Action pulls you into reality, where real progress happens. Perfection is not a prerequisite. Participation is. The fastest learners are not the smartest. They are the most active. There is also power in acting before you feel ready. Readiness is often a myth. Growth requires stepping into discomfort with incomplete confidence. Action stretches capacity. Each time you act without certainty, your tolerance for uncertainty grows. That skill alone separates leaders from followers. Leaders move with imperfect information. Followers wait for perfect conditions that never arrive. Another hook that hits hard: Discipline outperforms motivation every time. Motivation starts strong and fades fast. Discipline starts quiet and grows powerful. Action driven by discipline does not depend on mood, environment, or approval. It depends on decision. And decisions are within your control. Action also builds respect from yourself and from others. When you follow through, you strengthen self-respect. When others see consistency, trust grows, trust opens doors. Opportunities come to those who execute, not those who explain. The marketplace rewards reliability more than excitement. Action compresses time. What takes years of wishing can be achieved in months of consistent execution. Momentum shortens the distance between vision and reality. Waiting stretches that distance until the vision feels unreachable. In the end, action is the bridge between potential and performance. Without action, everything remains theoretical. With action, even imperfect effort turns into measurable progress. Procrastination rarely looks dangerous at the start. It feels like delay, not destruction. It feels like patience, not avoidance. That is why it's so effective at killing dreams without making a sound. Dreams don't usually die from failure, they die from postponement. Every time you delay a necessary action, you don't cancel the dream, you weaken it. Here's a hook. Most people don't confront. Procrastination is not time management, it's self-betrayal. You already know what needs to be done. The delay is not caused by confusion, it's caused by resistance. And resistance grows when fed. The longer you wait, the heavier the task feels. What could have taken one focused hour begins to feel like a mountain. Procrastination works in inches, not miles. No single delay feels significant. One skipped session, one postponed call, one day of avoidance. But momentum is built the same way, incrementally. When you delay repeatedly, momentum shifts in the wrong direction. Instead of progress pulling you forward, guilt starts pulling you back. And guilt is exhausting. Another hook that hits hard: procrastination doesn't steal time, it steals courage. Every delay reinforces fear. The mind learns that avoidance is acceptable, and fear grows more comfortable. Over time, tasks that once felt manageable start to feel intimidating. This is how capable people begin to doubt themselves, not because they lack ability, but because they've trained themselves to retreat. Procrastination also creates mental noise. Unfinished tasks occupy mental space. They follow you into your rest, your conversations, your sleep. You are never fully present because something is always undone. Action creates clarity. Completion creates peace. Delay creates tension. The mind was not designed to carry unfinished business indefinitely. Here's another hook. Procrastination multiplies pressure. What you delay today doesn't stay the same size tomorrow. Deadlines compress, stakes increase. Options disappear. Acting early gives you leverage. Acting late forces urgency. Without strategy, pressure feels overwhelming, not because the task is hard, but because the window for calm execution has closed. Dreams require momentum to stay alive. Procrastination interrupts that momentum. Passion fades when it's not acted on. Ideas lose energy when they remain unused. The excitement you felt at the beginning doesn't disappear randomly. It fad. BS because it wasn't reinforced with action. Energy follows engagement. Procrastination also distorts self-image. When you consistently delay, you begin to see yourself as someone who doesn't follow through. Identity shapes behavior. Once that identity sets in, effort feels pointless. You stop expecting success from yourself, and expectations determine outcomes more than talent ever will. Another hook worth absorbing: procrastination is a form of fear disguised as comfort. It protects you from short-term discomfort while exposing you to long-term regret. Acting requires vulnerability. You might fail. You might be judged. Procrastination feels safer because it avoids immediate risk. But safety is expensive when it costs your future. Delay also breaks trust with others. Missed deadlines, late responses, incomplete work slowly damage credibility. People stop relying on you. Opportunities quietly move to those who execute faster. The world rewards responsiveness. Procrastination makes you invisible in competitive environments. Procrastination trains you to underestimate time. You begin to believe you have more time than you do. But time is not generous. It doesn't pause for indecision. Acting early expands options. Acting late narrows them. That narrowing is where dreams suffocate, not dramatically, but quietly. The most dangerous thing about procrastination is that it feels temporary while its consequences are permanent. Each delayed decision makes the next delay easier. Breaking that cycle requires immediate action, not planning, not waiting, not preparing endlessly, but moving before comfort convinces you otherwise. Discipline is often misunderstood as restriction, but in reality, it is the highest form of control. It is not about limiting your life, it is about directing it. When discipline is present, time stops slipping away randomly and starts moving with intention. Without discipline, days blur together. With discipline, each day becomes a deliberate step toward a defined future. Here's a hook that reframes everything. Discipline doesn't change your schedule, it changes your destiny. Time by itself does nothing extraordinary. Years pass whether you grow or not. What determines the outcome of those years is how consistently you apply discipline to your actions. Small, disciplined behaviors repeated daily create a future that looks intentional, powerful, and inevitable. Discipline turns chaos into structure. It removes guesswork from decision-making. You no longer wake up wondering what to do or how to feel. You act according to standards, not moods. Standards create stability. Stability creates momentum. Momentum creates progress. This is how discipline quietly builds a life that looks effortless from the outside but was constructed through daily commitment. Another hook that matters: freedom is not found in options, it's found in mastery. Discipline is the path to mastery. When you master your habits, you master your time. When you master your time, you master your outcomes. People who lack discipline feel busy but unproductive. People with discipline feel focused and effective. One chases life, the other commands it. Discipline also compounds identity. Every disciplined action sends a message to your mind: you are someone who follows through. That belief strengthens with repetition. Confidence stops being something you chase and becomes something you embody. You trust yourself because you've proven consistency to yourself. That self-trust is the foundation of leadership, resilience, and long-term success. Here's another hook. Discipline creates freedom in advance. Most people seek freedom first and discipline later. High performers reverse the order. They accept discipline early so they can enjoy freedom later. They work when others rest, plan when others drift, and prepare when others procrastinate. As a result, their future has options, while others feel trapped by their past choices. Discipline transforms how? Time responds to you. When you are disciplined, time becomes an ally. Each hour adds value instead of stress. Progress becomes predictable. You no longer rely on bursts of effort or last-minute urgency. Instead, steady execution replaces panic. Calm replaces chaos. Time begins to feel abundant because it is being used with purpose. Another hook that resonates deeply: discipline is self-respect in action. It is the daily decision to honor your goals even when no one is watching. That integrity shapes character. Character shapes destiny. The life you live in the future is built by the standards you enforce today. Discipline also protects focus. In a world full of distractions, focus is currency. Discipline teaches you to say no to what doesn't serve your direction. Every no strengthens your yes. Over time, distractions lose power. Priorities become clear. Time stops being fragmented and starts being concentrated. When discipline becomes habitual, progress accelerates. What once felt hard becomes automatic. Habits remove friction. Action becomes natural. Results become consistent. This is how discipline quietly creates momentum that others mistake for luck. Discipline doesn't require intensity, it requires consistency. You don't need dramatic effort. You need repeated alignment between intention and action. Over time, that alignment produces outcomes that feel disproportionate to the effort invested. Time always reveals the truth. With discipline, it reveals growth, strength, and direction. Without discipline, it reveals drift, regret, and wasted potential. The difference is not talent or opportunity. The difference is daily discipline shaping time into destiny. So let me close with this. Your time is speaking right now. The question is, what story will it tell about you? A story of excuses, or a story of execution, a story of wasted hours, or a story of transformed life? Decide today that laziness will no longer convert your time into trash. Turn your time into value, your effort into equity, and your discipline into destiny. Because when you defeat laziness, you don't just save time. You create a future worth living.